everyone, it's Kate from the Fold Line. I am back this week with the Sew Down. This is our monthly roundup of stuff that we've watched, listened to, read, or been to that we think you guys would find interesting, stuff to keep you company while you're doing a bit of sewing. I've got loads, and I appreciate now, I looked and we haven't done this for quite a few months, so apologies that it has been so long, but I've got loads of really good things to talk you through, and I'm going to get started. So, stuff to watch. I've got a couple of things to watch. The first thing is on the BBC. It's called Coronation Tailors Fit for a King. If you didn't see it, it's with Patrick Grant, and he goes and talks to the people who created loads of the ceremonial costumes for the coronation. It's a really interesting watch. If you haven't seen it, I really enjoyed it. It's fascinating learning about how they make everything, and yeah, really lovely, like family business. So it's definitely worth going and having a watch if you didn't see it. Next up, this is a series, another one on the BBC, called Africa Rising with Afua Hirsch, and there's quite a few of them. So they've split it up into different sections of Africa. So we've got Morocco, Nigeria and South Africa so far, and it's looking at people working kind of in creative things, mainly women, in Africa, and what they're doing with textiles and how they're being creative, and it's really fascinating. Each episode's about an hour long, and I've watched quite a few of them. I've done all of Morocco, and I'm just started on Nigeria, but they're really, really interesting, and I've learnt loads, and I thought you guys would probably find it really interesting as well, so that's worth watching. A couple of things from Instagram videos that I thought were really wonderful. So there's one from the Fabled Thread, and it's about her wedding dress. So she bought a vintage Laura Ashley white cotton dress and embroidered it, spent hours and hours embroidering it to wear for her wedding. And it's such a beautiful story, and the reason behind the embroidery, and you can see her wearing it on the day. It's so beautiful, such a lovely story. So if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go and watch it, because it's only like a minute long, but it's just really, I loved it. And this one is quite silly and funny. It's about a chicken that goes and sits in this lady's farm every morning, and while she's doing her sewing, and it made us all laugh, so we thought you'd enjoy that, so go and have a look at that. I should say that everything I speak about is linked down below, so you can go and click on any podcasts or videos or whatever. It's all down below. So I've got 3 exhibitions. They're all London based, but they go on for quite a long time. So as in the first one I'm going to talk to you about goes on until April next year. So most of them have quite a long lead time. So if you have a year basically, under 6-8 months to come and see them. So the first one is actually, I haven't been to it yet, but I am actually going this week. It's the Diva Exhibition at the V&A, and it's looking at the power of kind of creativity through iconic figures, what they wore, and they've got loads of amazing costumes from iconic women. So I thought this would be a really interesting one for us to all go and see, because I think, anything, and it's sponsored by Net-a-Porter as well, which I thought was a really good kind of pairing. So I think there will be some really fabulous outfits there. The second one is one that I mentioned quite a while ago, but it's just a reminder to go and see it, because Louise went to see it this week and said it was really incredible. The Andy Warhol Textile Exhibition at the Fashion and Textile Museum. There were loads of, I wasn't sure quite what it was going to be, whether it was just going to be flat pieces of his textiles, but actually most of them have been made into garments, and a lot of them are vintage. They've all got really interesting details, and he's done really playful things with the garments. So if you were kind of on the fence about it, it's definitely worth going and seeing. And the prints are so fun, and Louise and I were talking about Louise was saying that some of the prints actually weren't perfect, and we were just talking about perfectionism within fabric now, what your expectations are. Anyway, it's definitely worth going and having a look at, because I think I think it'll be a really good one. And the last one is at the Design Museum, and it's called the Offbeat Sari, and it's a exhibition about contemporary saris, which I thought would be really interesting because it's something that I actually don't know huge much about, but I love all of the embroidery, and I think it'd be really, really interesting. So this is on until September, so that's definitely worth going to have a look at if you're in or around London. So I've got some stuff to, one more. The National Portrait Gallery. I went to see this last week and it's really, really great. It's called Yvonne's Life and Colour, and it's about a fashion photographer in the 1930s. And she was one of the, a fashion portrait photographer in the 1930s. And she was one of the first people to pioneer using colour in photography. And to be honest, just being a woman photographer at that time, it was really interesting. I actually knew nothing about her. I was just there in the area and I wanted to go and see it. So it's definitely worth going to have a look at. It's on until October and it's really great. Right, so now, books. So the first book I've got is one that it's not out yet, but I thought it looked really great. So you can pre-order it. It's called The Point of the Needle, Why Sewing Matters, and it's out in September this year. And it's looking at the importance of sewing. They've interviewed a lot of people, how they use sewing in their life, and almost that it's such an important part of culture and it doesn't get a lot of airtime, and that's the sort of concept of the book. Again, I'll pop a link to this, but I thought that might be a really nice little kind of pre-order it and then get it when it arrives in, I think, September. So that looks really fab. So next up, I've got a really lovely book. So it's a collaboration between two different women. Actually, one of the women that does it runs Haptic and Hue Tales of Textile podcast, and it's a podcast that we have spoken about in the past. If you haven't come across it, really worth going and having a look. She does deep dives into different topics, often quite historical, and they have created these online books. So the first one is called Textile Travels for Paris, and then the second is Textile Travels for London. And the concept of it's a digital download book, and it has a list of museums, galleries, studios, kind of boutiques and markets in London and Paris. The great thing about it being a digital kind of copy is that each of them are linked with a Google Map link, so you can click on the description and it will take you to the location so you can easily find where it is. I thought these would be really nice, like really great presents to give to someone. So if you're coming to London or you've got a friend who's going to Paris who's really into textiles and fashion and stuff, it'd be a really nice gift. They sent us the London one, and I have lived in London for 18 years, and there were a few things in there that I'd literally never heard of. So it's really well researched and well done. So it's definitely worth going and have a look at because it was really nice. So podcasts, I've got quite a lot of podcasts to talk you through. So I'm going to start with the first one I've got is Stories of Our Time, Inside Vogue, Fashion's Ultimate Power Struggle. This is talking about the British Vogue editor-in-chief that has announced, Edward What's-His-Chops has announced that he's stepping down and why. And it's very interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's well researched and it's quite kind of fascinating. So that is worth going and having a listen to. So the second podcast I've got is called Our Plant Stories, and this was sent to us. The idea is that it's talking about plants and all around a particular topic of a plant. So obviously this is very much gardening based, so if you don't like gardening, it might not be for you, but it's really well done. So the woman who has created it was a former BBC radio producer, and she interviews people, and it's kind of like, it's really easy, nice listening. It's perfect for when you're sewing. It sort of trickles along and you kind of get like snippets of people's lives, and yeah, it's just really nicely produced. So it's definitely worth going and having a listen to. We all really like it. Next we have got Veg magazine, which we've actually started selling in the shop if you haven't seen it yet, and it's really beautiful. So if you like Veg magazine, we now have it. They do a podcast, and there's a really great one about upcycling. In fact, I've listened to all of them and they're really good, but this one particularly I really enjoyed. Go and have a listen because it was really fascinating and well researched. So then we have got a really great, I haven't listened to this is Louise actually, BBC Sounds Killing Victoria is the title of the podcast, and I had no idea about this, but apparently during Queen Victoria's reign, 7 young men tried to attack her, and it's all about the story of them. And I've listened to the first episode of this and it's really interesting. So if you like historical stuff, this is definitely worth going and have a listen to. It's really well done and kind of almost slightly dramatized. I really enjoyed it, so I'm definitely going to carry on listening to that. A really fantastic episode from Desert Island Discs, if you haven't heard it, with Jenny Beeman, who's a costume designer, Beevan, sorry, and she has done like really incredible films, and it was really interesting one to listen to. Then we have got this one that comes from Rach recommended this actually. I was saying that I'm really struggling at the moment to find books to read that I want to read, and like I don't know about you guys, but reading a book obviously is quite a big commitment of time. So finding something that's good enough for that commitment of time. So there's a podcast called Bookshelfy, and it's the Women's Prize for Fiction podcast. And they interview the author who has written the book, and it's all written by women. So I really, obviously Women's Prize for Fiction, but it's really great, and it kind of gives you an insight into the book, and it's a good way to discover new books. So if you're looking for new books, this is definitely worth going and having a look at. And last but not least, this is something that I've just discovered yesterday actually, and I've listened to the first 2 episodes and I really enjoyed them. It's called A Life More Wild, and it's done by Canopy and Stars, and each episode they interview a person about a particular topic out on a walk, and each walk is in a different location. The thing that I really like about it is they talk about quite difficult topics in a really kind of relaxed way, because obviously they're walking, but they're also describing the landscape as well and where they are. So you feel like you're really on the walk with them, and I really enjoy like the descriptions of the nature alongside the kind of interview. So that one is definitely worth going and checking out. So that is it from me. I hope that was good and you've got some nice things to now kind of get you stuck in over, kind of keep you busy for the next month. And we'll be back soon with another video. Bye!